When I say the words venture capital, what do you think of? I don't know why exactly, probably Hollywood, but I think of tech bros wearing hoodies and calling everybody dude, or I think of men in suits ruthlessly saying yes and no to hopeful entrepreneurs. What I had absolutely never thought of until I met her in March of 2024 was women like Azin Radsan Van Alebeek and her co-founder Keisha Landrum Pierre from Emmeline Ventures. At Emmeline, this women-run venture capital firm is investing in women-founded businesses and making waves as part of a new generation of women VC firms who are committed to doing things differently.
You've probably heard me say more often than once, individually we're powerful, and it's collectively we're unstoppable. And going back to the Armada idea, we all have to be working together in the same direction, and that takes collaboration. That takes us, we have regular calls with our peer GPs who are investing in the same space, not because we're trying to pick information from them so that we can do something without them. No, we want to share. This is collaborative work. Who are you talking to? What are you learning? What are you thinking about this, right? It is thought partnering together very much with the idea that we will elevate each other in combining forces.
Welcome to Brave Middle Ground, where curiosity meets courage. I'm Dayna Del Val, and here we're exploring the spaces between isolation and connection, division and unity. We'll reclaim the middle ground, one brave step at a time, starting right now. Azin and Keisha, thank you for joining me on Brave Middle Ground as my first pair in this conversation.
Thank you, Dayna. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are thrilled to be here, Dayna. Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm thrilled that you said yes because you live in a world that is extremely foreign to me. I had all kinds of, I think, stereotypes of what venture capitalism was, who venture capitalists were. And when I met you almost exactly a year ago, Azin,
yes,
you, in about 1.5 sentences, dispelled all of the things that Hollywood told me venture capitalists are, and you made it abundantly clear that actually venture capitalists are just people, which was so shocking to me.
I'm like, now I want to know, what did I say?
Well, we can talk about it. Yeah, I do remember, but we're going to start and then we'll go into that.
Sounds great.
I want to know from the two of you and from your joint venture of Emmeline Ventures, which we will talk about more so people get a great sense of what this beautiful business is. I want to know how the two of you define middle ground from your perspectives.
It's such a great question, Dayna, and it obviously is very topical to the podcast. For middle ground, with respect to Emmeline Ventures, I want to say there's a part of me that wants to answer and to say there is no middle ground.
Yeah. Okay. Why?
Why? Because everything we're doing at Emmeline Ventures is in the space that has been, depending on what analogy, I'm trying to make sure that I'm keeping the correct analogies, but we are outside the normal. We are outside the center. We are in the blue ocean. We are away. We are not in the middle. And it's not to say, I was careful not to say we're in the fringes because that connotes something, but we are in a whole other space. That is where our focus is. That is not where traditional, typical venture capital has played. And so I'm sure that's part of the dispelling of the myth, is because we are not part of the myth. That means... Oh,
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love
Thank
that.
You. Maybe I should just stop there.
No, keep going. It's all going to be good.
Yeah, no. And but what I want to also say is, in the middle ground for me, and it's something based on background, experiences, philosophy, values, everything all packaged together. For me, I often present myself as, I'm known for being a bridge, right? And a bridge is the middle ground. Is I have operated across cultures, languages, geographies, political beliefs, genders, sport between the athletes and the nerds, right? Like I am middle ground because I can operate on the continuum in almost any edge. And for me, that is a rare place to be able to stand. And I wish more of us were in there to understand that we're so intricately linked in the middle.
Wow. Okay, Keisha, I want to hear your answer in 1 second, but I want to just ask a follow-up question, Azin, because I'm really fascinated. Are you personally the middle ground by choice, by necessity, by virtue of your temperament, strengths, and experiences? How do you find yourself there?
Ooh, I haven't had someone ask me that. And as you were asking, I thought I knew the answer. And then I think, So I would say it is a combination. I mean, I'm going to go back to the middle ground, right? It is temperament. I'm an earth sign. I'm centered. I'm balanced, right? It is by experience, or for the fact that I was born in the U.S. to parents who of an immigrants from Iran. I held two cultures all the time. And then I was married to a Dutchman and lived in the Netherlands. So experiences have exposed me to that, to leaning into that temperament that was there.
I gotta say, anytime you give me a tiny little insight into your life, because I know you, but I don't know you that well, I feel like you are you're like a romance novel character in the best sense of the word. And I'm so drawn to your lived experience, which I will say, I'm sure has not always been easy, but the way you present it has such an epic arc to it and such a romance to it. If you just said to me those sentences, called me up every day and said, oh, my parents are Iranian immigrants, and then I married a Dutchman, and then I lived in the Netherlands, and I would be happy to hear those sentences every day, Azin, because they kind of take me on an exotic journey. Yes.
I appreciate that. And it's in storytelling, and narratives are so important as our mindset, right? Because I could shape and tell you the same facts in a very different way.
I'm sure that's true.
And so that gets back to middle ground. And I have to throw one more thing in, Lakeisha, and I apologize. But, and I forget, there's Socrates, there's Plato, there's Aristotle, and I know that they go in that order. Is it Aristotle who espoused the mean? I want to Google search this, so maybe one of your podcast listeners will share with us their knowledge, and that will be great. And in the interim, we'll also look it up. I want to bring back, because we often think in venture about the future, but we have to recognize the past and whose shoulders we stand on, and our ancestors and our parents, obviously, right? And my mother, I remember ever since a child, right, talking about finding that middle ground, finding that right balance, not being too far one way or the other, like the importance of moderation.
That's powerful, and something we all could stand to use a little more of. I say, holding a mirror right up to my face, very, very close. It's
All
not
of
my
us.
favorite place to be, but yeah, it's so vital.
So vital.
Well, thank you for that. Okay,
You're
Lakeisha,
welcome.
I'm really curious to hear how you think about middle ground from Emmeline and from your personal perspective.
Well, okay. I know we said that Azine might take the question first, but I should probably take it first if your answers,
It's
Azine,
going to
are
be
gonna
that good.
phenomenal.
You did raise the bar, Azine. I mean, to
You
be fair.
absolutely raised the bar,
Thank you.
and that's why I'm so thrilled that she's my partner. She's truly, truly brilliant, and that came across in like two seconds. My goodness. So what would I add to that? Because quite frankly, I think it was a mic drop, and I could very happily go on to the next question. But where I would say we're, Azine, obviously she and I know each other very well. We've been working together for nearly half a decade, which is wild. But where she and I are actually quite similar is that we're both bridges. Middle ground really to me means being a connector between worlds, between ideologies, between perspectives, but not just being a connector, but being like a person who can really create harmony. And we really do a lot of that at Emmeline, because people often say, well, oh, you're an impact investing firm. We're like, no, we are not an impact investing firm, but so much of what we're really trying to show is that this world of having impact and having outsized returns can come together and don't have to be two worlds. And like, oh, you're over here doing impact investing, and oh, you're over here making a lot of money investing. Our entire ethos is that actually you can make a lot of money investing, and you can invest in healthcare, which is where we play, right? So health, wealth, and sustainability. Like, you can actually invest in spaces that have a lot of impact. Like when we're investing in tech and in the transportation business, and when Uber and Lyft and other sort of disruptors in that space came in, they weren't impact investors, but my goodness, how much did it impact the industries, right? How much did it impact the world and how we even experience it? Like when I go to South Africa, I'm using Uber, and when I go to Prague, I'm using Uber, and then when I'm here in LA, I'm using Uber, right? And so I think this notion of being like a bridge between worlds and ideologies to create a harmonious interaction between the two of them. And it does, and just as Azin said, like for me, it very much, it shows up in all of the ways in which one could imagine it showing up, right? It shows up whether it's from like spiritual beliefs and religious beliefs, and or it can be political perspectives, or it can be, in this case, investment theses and approaches. So I would say that's kind of what middle ground means to me. I'm going to pause because I know you have other questions for us.
Well, and I'm going to say you met the bar. So congratulations.
Oh,
you both
goodness.
Are operating at a very high level. Yes.
Dayna, what a bar. I said, okay, got to breathe and come up with something interesting.
Well, challenge met and well exceeded. So I was on your website today just to look a little bit at how you're talking about what you do. And your opening salvo is empowered women empower women. So before we go down sort of your philosophical approach, let's just talk about venture capitalism. And Azin, I'll go back to how I started this, and I'll tell you how you and I connected, because you had many, many events last year around this experience. I had one, so it's very present in my mind. The Fargo Film Festival was showing a film called Show Her the Money. And a friend of mine who's very involved in the film festival, Kendra, wrote to me and said, I think you're going to want to see this film. So I went that evening having no real idea what I was going to see. And the film started, and it's very quickly revealed that this is a film about women venture capitalists investing in women-founded businesses. None of which I have any real sense of on either side. But the film is so compelling. It's so well done. The storylines, the storytelling is so clear. And both the journey of the venture capitalists and the women attempting to get capital funding is just, I was drawn in from start to finish. I have thought many times over this last year about the various people who were looking to receive funding and the journey that they take throughout the film, and, the rise and the fall and the ebb and the flow. And what struck me about it in the overall was how normal everybody was, that it was just people who had good ideas, sitting down in front of people who had capital, asking the people with capital to invest in the good ideas, which is exactly what I did when I ran a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And so it very quickly became a thing that suddenly wasn't something that only multimillionaire men got to do, or, 27 twerpy-year-olds in their zippy hoodies walking around San Francisco. But it was a thing that women of all shapes and sizes and colors and ages could participate in. So, okay, I watched the film. I'm really moved by the film. And then there's a panel. And I've just seen you in the film, both of you, right? Keisha, you're in it as well.
I'm in it.
Yes. Okay. So
I would say I'm in it, Dayna, but Azin steals the show.
Oh my gosh, I
Well-
was going to say the exact opposite. Keisha drops one of
No,
the
that's in the trailer,
best.
Azin. That's not
No.
in the app. That's anyway.
But anyway,
you're both fantastic. We'll leave it at that. Azin shows up on stage for this panel. Okay, so they ask if anyone has any questions, and I think we were all sort of stunned by the film, and so there really weren't a lot of questions, which empowered me to A, want to fill the space, because silence sometimes makes me feel awkward, and B, I was fascinated, so I raised my hand and I just said, I felt like the film, exactly what I just said to you, humanized this world and made it so accessible, made it seem like anybody could be an investor. I thought you had to have millions and millions of dollars, already be wealthy before you could exponentially grow your wealth. And you lit up Lazine. I mean, you were already, did I just call you Lazine? That's a combination of the two of you, like if you're
I
a
like
famous
that.
Hollywood couple.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Azin, you lit up underneath this spotlight and you turned and you said, oh, that's such a great comment. Thank you for noticing that. And you made me feel so seen. You made me feel so valued as somebody who 45, 50 minutes earlier, if someone had said, Dayna, do you think you could ever be a venture capital investor? Would have said, oh, please, I work for a nonprofit. Give me a break, move along. And you just changed everything. And then afterwards, you sort of came tearing down off the stage and someone came up to talk to you and you found me in the audience and you sort of loudly said, stay right there. I want to talk to you. And I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, I felt like I was in the presence of like a rock star. So of course I stayed and the rest is a little bit history.
Were.
We've become friends.
Yes.
Well, the point is just, I think what the film does, I think what you do, I think the work that Emmeline is doing has many, many important elements, which you will touch on in our conversation. But
Yes.
from a outside perspective, what I think is so important is that you are normalizing this idea that venture capitalism is accessible for way more people, both probably on the investor and on the receiving end, than most of us who don't operate in that world have ever imagined was possible. And so I'm curious, 45 minutes into this very long question, I'm curious what your intentionality around that was, because I could tell from you that this was not a off-the-cuff thing. This was a very intentional piece of the modeling you did to build Emmeline Ventures.
100%. Thank you, Dayna, for the build up, the lead, the framing of all of this. And there's actually, I'm like my brain, I'm trying to bring it all together. I want to come back to the empowered women, empower women, right? Everything you talked about for me is an illustration of that concept, of that ethos, of really in all our actions, all our interactions with others, is how do we unlock opportunities for people? And it's very broad, and show her the money, and which I always give credit to Keisha for ensuring that we got involved with that. Like, she had to really knock me on the head and remind me how powerful it will be and could be, and it has been, right? And it has been one of the greatest gifts personally, individually, and I think also for Emmeline, because the marriage, the intermixing of that opportunity to imbue into individuals the recognition of their power and strength and ability it's so easily done through this narrative. And you know, kudos to Kai Dickens for the storytelling, and great applause to Catherine Gray for being the champion to get this film made, the executive producer. So I'm trying to think if there what more I would like to share with you is it's the empowered women empower women, and yes, very deliberate. And so I'm going to overlay in my background includes training and life coaching, and both life coaching, executive coaching, and actually some athletic coaching as well. And it's that idea of taking the human potential that sits before you. Everyone is creative, resourceful, and whole. Everyone holds such great power in her and him. And as a coach, being able to help them pull away the layers and to remove the dirt and to let them shine. I'm like, what an amazing platform we have at Emmeline to be able to do that at scale, both by investing in companies that are going to bring these great solutions that help us all. That's one direction. On another direction, that are going to employ and build jobs in regions, right? And then the actual individuals who are involved in this as well, either as the founders or investors, which you've talked about. But frankly, there is a much larger ecosystem of people who can get involved here in this future building. And those are people who back office support, tech services, legal services, even just being a friend to someone, like every now and then. Like last night I texted someone, I'm like, I really need to vent, right? She's a safe harbor for me. That's an important person in the ecosystem who understands it. It's an untitled role and it's unpaid, but all of us have an opportunity to be a part of this legacy building and future building. Does that get to the question? And
I think it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautifully. And then what I would just add is just on the point of empowered women, empower women. You know, we've had conversations around updates to our site, but the ethos, I think, regardless of how we talk about it, the ethos will always remain that what we're looking to do is, and what we believe very strongly is that when women rise, all ships rise, right? And so that economic lift really is beneficial for everyone. And I think that ethos is really important.
Yeah.
So Lakeisha had to step out to a meeting, but Azin, you're able to stay, and I'm delighted to continue to have the conversation with you. And I'm curious to know this idea of, again, intentionality and impact versus income, or you know how these things have been seen as needing to be separate, but you at Emmeline are bridging these two things. Perhaps this is an obvious and enormous question, but why in the world, when we know through things like the microloans that are given out in developing countries to women who, you know, get $50 and are able to turn it into things that allow their daughters to go to school and this, and this. And when we know what literacy does, and we have all of this actual evidence, not just in the developing world, but across all of the things. We know that when businesses have women on their boards of directors, they make smarter decisions. This is all proven. Why is the venture capital space still so largely run by white men?
Dayna, that is the $100 million question, right? So, and thank you for bringing up, and particularly because in the nonprofit world, I'm gonna pause for a moment and just acknowledge you're coming from the nonprofit world where there have been more studies earlier done, but in the profit world, we have study after study with abundant data that show clearly, as Lakeisha had mentioned, when you support her all ships rise.
Yes.
We know this is true. And yet, venture capital, 98% of venture capital funding goes to men, right? It does not make any sense. And I have many opinions on this, on why, and I will keep it to maybe 2, maybe 3. So, one is, I want to think about the order I give this in. But inertia is one factor. And so, and where do you start with the inertia? Women have not entered the working force en masse, except for, I think you go back maybe 50 years, right? Like women weren't able to open up a checking account on their own until 1971. That's a fact that's shared in the movie, in the documentary. For so many reasons, women, we have not had the even playing field that men have had, for lots of reasons. It's just, that is true. And so how are we going to make the inroads to change things? Is it the data that is needed to prove it? Or are there cultural shifts and changes that need to happen? And after, even despite being a data person, someone who likes data-backed evidence and was a quantitative economics major, right? Like, give me some numbers and spreadsheets and I'm generally really happy. I acknowledge this is not a data issue.
Right. Right.
And it starts from day 0 and before. It is how do we raise our children? What narratives do we share with them, consciously and unconsciously? What cultural norms get thrown atop that we accept? What limiting beliefs do we hold ourselves? Which I know that's like a term, and you took a sigh, right? But that's important for us as individuals. I know that you and I work on that, right? It's for everyone. And I should really get the study, and I'd love to reference this one because people say, oh, but boys this and girls that. And I have daughters and sons, and they're all wonderful individuals with different personality strengths and weaknesses, right? I try hard not to be so gender specific, and I'm sure I have been. And studies show you can take the same exact baby and you get a whole bunch of different couples. You take the same baby and you wrap it in a blue blanket and you give it to the parents, and you can record them behaving, speaking, coddling, whatever, parenting in one way. Same baby, wrap it in a pink blanket, same parents, totally different, right? It's in us. And until that starts to change, I don't know how we start changing some of the other stuff. That's one. And two, because so much care, unpaid care, both the physical actually act of the care and the mental load of planning that care falls on, in a heterogeneous couple, on the female side. Her ability to activate, to fully optimize her abilities is hampered. And she's in the professional realm with like one hand tied behind her back, if not more, because she's taking care of all the stuff over here as well. And so give me different types of data to prove, like, and actually I could say, despite these limitations, she's still doing a kick-ass job, right? Why wouldn't we try and clear her path and make her healthier, make her ability to be to work, to be a even larger contributor to your firm? Why wouldn't you want to try and enhance that?
Yeah, it feels very foolish on the part of decision makers in the face of all the existing data to say, well, there's nothing we can do about that. I mean, if you think about daycare as one example, the lack of access to affordable daycare, and in some cases, any daycare, just almost guarantees that in a household where there's at least a woman, she's going to stay home. I mean, I used to say all the time, if daycare had been an issue in my life, I would have stayed home because my husband made more money and we got our insurance through him. That would have systematically just made more sense. Why would we have given up benefits for me to go work? That just wouldn't have made any sense.
Right.
So you're right that it's clearly not a data issue because we have the data.
Right.
And it's so troubling. I feel like this is one example of so many challenges, and we don't need to go down this path because I really do want to stay on venture capital, but this is not the only realm in which women or people of color or other minorities are
soon to be
shut
majorities.
out. Yeah.
Right.
And so it's, I think the conversation can be applied in many areas.
Yes. Thank you. And I appreciate that because I've been on many panels where they talk about how do we make venture capital more inclusive, bring more women in. And for me, of course, because we're in this space and I go to conferences that are about this space, the topic is limited to this space. But again, just to re-articulate what you just said, the issue needs to be solved in a much broader realm first.
Yes.
You can't do it here, not just in venture.
Because this is in a lot of ways the frosting. I mean, we sort of have to fix the cake.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Foundational, it's core rewiring, which is a phrase that Emily and we like to talk about, right? Which bringing it to venture, and so we can go down that road more, is our investment thesis is very deliberate, thinking about the ways that we can fund business solutions to issues and problems that are limiting us, not letting us be fully healthy, fully contributing, and fully ourselves. That's what we can invest in so that our future selves and our future generations, at least we're hoping will have the benefit there. And it's any kind of problem you have to attack from all different sides, right? So we're using venture for that aspect of how we can influence things. And there are others working in other spaces, and collectively we can, again, bridge, right? Going back and bridging, bringing knowledge of what's going on in universities and thinking about women's leadership as one, or I'm trying to give another, working with nonprofits who are working to develop better daycare or for-profit, by the way, with better daycare. But it is a large problem.
Well, it's a large ship to steer. And
Yes.
in some ways it's got maybe too many captains, and in many other ways it has not enough captains. And so then how do you steer it?
Right. And I that's one analogy, and I often think about that. And I had someone give me, and it's a common one, right? Like if you can get the armada all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And so individually we're all doing our thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. It's less work if everybody's going west as opposed to I'm going to go west and you go south and maybe we'll meet up someday.
Yes.
So in the 4 or 5 years that Emmeline has been a presence, what kind of movement are you seeing, Azin, with the understanding that this is a long game you are playing and it's a long evolution to get to where we need to be?
Right. What I would see, and of course progress is, in my brain, and for my life experience too, it's never linear up, and I should do the right direction on screen, but it's not just
You're
a straight
good.
line up and to the right, right? There's steps forward, back, to the side, and then there's the typhoon whirlwind that we might feel like we're in at the moment. What I see as positives are, because I think that's your question, right? Like,
Yeah.
where do I see this going? Do I see hope? I do see hope. I'm in venture capital. You have to be someone who's future thinking and thinking that future can be positive and being hopeful. And at the same time, you hold skepticism with almost the exact same weight. I would say the younger generations are what I'll initially point to, of their they have less of a focus on gender and gender roles. There seems to be an expansion and an evolution on that. That I think is hopeful. More discussion about family planning and who's involved. That is, I find hopeful. What I also feel hopeful on another end of things is I'm seeing women-led funds that are much larger in size and able to write checks further down the track at the Series A and the Series B stage. So again, of course, there's women who are involved as GPs in all 15, well,
Can you
but not
explain
a lot.
what a GP is?
Just a general partner. So a
Great,
general
thank you.
partner is one of the main decision makers at a venture capital firm. 15% of those positions are held by women. It's not a lot.
Okay. I'm kind of surprised it's that much, actually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. So 15%, and there can be discussion about how much influence they really have and power and to exert their independent view. I'm just saying they're there, right?
Okay.
What's also happening is women-led funds, not where there's just one woman with 8 guys, right? But where there's like Keisha and myself, we're 2 female GPs leading Emmeline Ventures. We decide for ourselves how we want to operate. We might actually have some unconscious bias from the past experiences we've had, which were more male-dominated roles, and so we have to again unlearn and reinvent. But there are more and more of these women-led funds. Many of us, our fund sizes dictate that we will operate in the earlier stages, and it's wonderful that more and more there is the pipeline of growth, and we're now moving into the later stages. So that's great. So that's one. The other, and I wish I had the stats ready at hand, and I know that Keisha would if she were here. We are seeing exits with female-led companies. We are seeing great valuations. There is all the metrics that you wanted to see to again, the data to prove the point that women-led ventures and women-led funds are doing the job correctly. They're out there. So
how collaborative can you be? Do you choose to be with other firms? Is that a piece of this world?
For me, and 100%, and I would say for Keisha as well, 100%, right? You've probably heard me say more often than once, individually we're powerful, and it's collectively we're unstoppable. And going back to the Armada idea, we all have to be working together in the same direction, and that takes collaboration. That takes us. We have regular calls with our peer GPs who are investing in the same space, not because we're trying to like pick information from them so that we can do something without them. No, we want to share. This is collaborative work. Who are you talking to? What are you learning? What are you thinking about this? Right? It is thought partnering together, very much with the idea that we will elevate each other in combining forces. And
as I'm listening to you, Azin, I'm so struck by the fact that really, with the exception of space and, the Marianas Trench, there's not much on planet Earth that is unexplored. So you and I were born into a world that had already sort of been fully conquered. But you are operating as explorers in this very concrete and yet abstract way. Venture capitalism feels very abstract because you don't go to the building of venture capitalism and do, like, here's my briefcase of venture capitalism. It's a whole ephemeral thing. And I understand that money is exchanged, but money also feels very ephemeral in a lot of ways. And today feels kind of like it's all monopoly money one way or the other. But you women, women, thank you. But I don't view myself as a venture capitalist. But in this world that you and Keisha and these other venture capital firms are in, you are really sailing into uncharted water if we're going to keep the Armada, Amerigo Vespucci kind of idea going. You are modern day explorers. And that must feel so maddening and so thrilling.
Dayna, this imagery of this, I haven't thought about it this way. I absolutely
never
love
have
it.
either.
I'm bringing it in. I'm like, I'm going to own it. I'm going to explore.
Yeah, can't you kind of feel the sea air kind of moving your hair? And
Yes, and I'll tell you, other than like immediately, right? I'm thinking of all these male explorers. I'm like, who are my female explorers that I need to like keep up there as mentors? And I'm thinking Sacagawea, which I was reluctant to say. From my
state.
Amazing. Who ended up in my former state of Oregon. But thinking about her as a guide, and really truly she should get so much more of the credit for being the lead explorer on the Lewis and Clark expedition.
You are right. Yes. And, in fact, I will say at our state capitol, we have an absolutely exquisite public sculpture of her. So if you ever come to visit me, I will take you to see it because it's really, really a beautiful piece of art.
I'm coming for sure. You know that I'm coming. I mean, I was there. I pretty much.
It's true.
It almost was exactly a year ago because it was right around the Persian New Year. In fact, I think it was the day before the spring equinox occurred.
Okay.
Which is what today is.
Amazing.
Yes. So but you used two adjectives to explain the explorer feeling, and maddening was the first one. That didn't come to mind for me. It's more.
Oh, good.
It's a thrill. It's exciting. It's a challenge. It's an honor, right? So that's how I view it.
I love that. I'll give you another woman to think of, and I cannot believe I can't get her name, but she was expelled from, I believe, Massachusetts because she was preaching, and women were not allowed to preach in the Puritan tradition. And she was exiled to what is now Rhode Island and essentially founded Rhode Island because she didn't die. I will find her for you and send you her name. And again, we're putting a lot of onus on our listening audience. But if you have the name of this woman,
please help us.
Type it in. Yeah.
Yes.
I can't believe I can't get her name. I knew it for years and years because I was so struck by her. She was, if it had been during the witch trials, I'm sure she would have been killed, but it was before that. And so she was simply banished. But she did go on to play a huge role in some of the development of the Upper East Coast. I know. Good for her.
Yes.
So, what do you love about this work?
Oh, it's so easy. I love almost everything about it. And I was, as you were asking that question, I was thinking about your comment that you did not say this exactly, but something like venture seems very make-believe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is
ephemeral.
Ephemeral was the word.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that wants to take the time and say, well, no, there's the process. This is how it works. This is how it fits into the capital markets. Like,
I would love to hear that.
Yeah. And I'll do a brief, just a brief idea, because venture capital is part of the private markets, and it is where, and there's a distinction between private markets and public markets. We know about the public markets generally because it's the stock exchanges, and people might watch the news, and they own some equities, and everyone can play into that world if they have a small amount of capital to put in there. Even you can get started. That's where the really large companies play. And by public, it means that other people can have ownership into it. There's a market that sets evaluations on a constant basis. It's highly liquid, but highly liquid and highly known, the values, right? Mm-hmm. It's not ambiguous. Prior to that, to get to be that stage of a company who would be on a public market, you're in the private markets. You're owned by the founding team and other people who might put an investment in either through venture or through debt and other ways, right? Mm-hmm. They're much smaller. They're working towards becoming a public company most of the time as an objective, not always, and that's starting to change. I'm not going to go down that road with us right now, but the public markets becomes the goal. Where do you start? You start at the embryonic stage of an idea. One or two founders, you start building, you build your product or service, you get your fit, you get larger revenues, you start to increase and scale. That's when you move down the road towards that public market. In that private market, though, valuations are and I haven't found the right word yet. I don't want to say arbitrary. That's absolutely wrong. But they are a forced calculation. There is no market for the value.
Oh, okay.
Right? No, and that's changing as well because there are secondary markets. And so, but how you value things is now a function of formulas, math, and calculations. And it's not liquid, highly liquid, because those markets don't exist 24/7, or at least from 9:30 to whenever the markets run, 9:30 to 4, I think.
Okay.
But there's no real market period. So it's illiquid with for lack of better term, and again, dear listeners, if you have a term, but a forced calculation. And sorry, I'm like giving you the primer on the private markets, and I remember now I'm like, wait, and how did we get here, Dayna? Please remind me.
Because I said that I thought venture capitalism was sort of ephemeral. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm saying, but no, there is a structure. We are risk capital. We are investing money into businesses as they are growing, and there is lots of legal documentation, lots of diligence work to understand what the business is. There is a lot of thought partnering and work and post-investment support to help the businesses grow and thrive. It is part of a very fluid entire capital market system. It is one piece of the cog. Is that helpful?
Yes, it's incredibly helpful. And as you were talking, I was reminded of the fact that one of the things that the film Show Her the Money does really well is lay this out.
It does, doesn't it?
Because I knew less than nothing about venture capital going into that night. And clearly I don't know very much still, but I do remember that I felt like for the first time it was explained to me in a way that made some sense. And what I loved about it, and what you just referenced, is this post-investment relationship. And maybe that's not true of all firms, but I know that it is true of Emmeline, because I've watched you on LinkedIn, and I've seen the way you are in relationship with the businesses and the founders who you have chosen to invest in. And I just have to think that that's got to be some of what makes, and I'm making a broad stereotype here, but some of what makes women-run venture capital firms successful is that nurturing relationship building that goes on above and beyond. Here's a check. Don't call me until you've sold, and you're the unicorn that we now get to divest, all of the money to our investors.
Yes. And I'm going to say myth busting and stereotype breaking. As you mentioned, venture capital firms operate across a spectrum in how they do things. Yes, there are there are some of those who write the check, nothing more. But not all genders also operate on the other end, where you spend a lot of time in the post-investment support realm. And there are firms again who might we invest in a basket, 20 to 25 companies. That's a good number of companies to really spend a lot of time with. I know some firms who might invest in 100, and some firms who might invest in 3 to 5, right? So again, everyone has different strategies and different ways that they feel that they can optimize the investment value. And it also depends what stage, where you're investing. Is it the very earliest? Is it a little bit later? What do you really need at what stages? So I appreciate the comment, and I'm going to say it differently. Women, we like to work in community. It is something that, and I'm going to reference, I believe I referenced the Leadership Lab and connecting, and there's one with Stanford University that I've connected with the director, and I had a lovely chat where she shared some of their learnings, and it's the idea that we women like to work in community. And it's something you would think I would have known, but it was very helpful for me to hear and to remember. And so, which loops back to your comment.
Well, I think as I'm thinking through my lived experiences, I think the reason that you didn't consciously know about it is because it's undervalued on the whole. So I think about quilting circles. I'm from the Great Plains, so there's a long history of women getting together and making quilts. And that isn't just a Great Plains thing. That's across the globe. Everybody's got blankets. Right. But quilting circles was where problems were solved, was where girls learned how to become women, was where you could share what wasn't working. You could dip your toe into, the challenges in your marriage or with parenting or all those kinds of things. And it was always seen as, well, that's just something that, women do. They get together and gossip. Well, there may have been plenty of gossip, but there was also this real practical nurturing community that could only be found there. And then I'm thinking about my master's paper, which I wrote specifically to upend academic writing, because academic writing traditionally has been, I came, I saw, I conquered, I am man, I fought nature, I fought self, and I won. And my contention was women wrote collaboratively, they wrote communicatively in community with other women, and it was always dismissed until it could no longer be dismissed. And that's actually how most of us live. So I think it's not shocking that someone had to say to you, Azin, this thing that you just naturally do is actually a real thing, and look at the benefits of it. Because I think at every angle, we are told that our tendencies, whether it's nature or nurture, or definitely probably some of both, our tendencies are not the most important ones.
Yes, and really well said. There's 2 comments I'm going to throw out here that just came to my head. Servant leadership. Right? It's, and Keisha and I talk about this a lot too. It's like, we're not doing it for us. We're doing it for Emmeline. And we were very deliberate in naming Emmeline with a young woman's name so that truly she embodies who we're building for.
I think you told me you had 2 things. I want to make sure you get to say your second thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The second thing is, I appreciate the generosity you gave me for saying that I was already doing it. I will freely admit, I was not a great group and community person as a young person. And for many reasons, maybe the cultural and also natural tendency. I don't know. It has been great learning, right? We are on a journey, all of us, and I'm a continual learner, and I'm striving to improve.
Well, and I just want to double down again and say I'm making enormously broad stereotypes. Not all women are nurturers. Not all men are out to conquer them. It's just for the purpose of the conversation.
Yes.
So I apologize if there's someone listening who's not finding themselves in the way I'm gendering this conversation. That's
right.
That's not my intention.
Because you really are, again, middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Is really trying to, and I've been deliberate in some of your extremes, generalization is to bring us back, because I'm a bridge, and finding that space where we all sit.
Yeah, and where everyone can find themselves. I am not interested in excluding people because they don't fit the box that I've created. So I'm trying to keep it as broad and as wide as possible, and also recognize that there is a very real inequity in the space in which you operate. And I think there is value in pointing that out and in talking about how that can continue to evolve and change, both for today and for sure into the future.
Yes. And actually, Dayna, I'm going to loop back to being an explorer, because you made a comment there about, which I really like, except for, I think you went to the San Andreas Fault and all the way to, I don't know what your top level range was, but the moon, let's say, that everything in between is well known.
The Marianas Trench.
Yes.
To space. Yes.
To space, right? When you said that, I had the flits of saying yes, but instead of a yes, and, is one huge area that we haven't had knowledge on until just recently is being discovered, is the female body. I have a bookmark from a event I was just at where the Menopause Society, the lack of knowledge just around that one facet of life, which 52% of the planet, if they live long enough, will experience, is jaw-dropping. I asked my very young internal medicine doctor last year something about it, and she looked at me like I said, "Did you happen to catch that fourth head I have shooting out of my back?" It was a complete mystery to her. That's a problem. It is,
and she's not an idiot doctor.
No. And that, going back to why that is medical school. The learning at medical school. And you could say, why is that? And it could be the values we have placed, what education a physician receives, and the implicit then valuation that the female body, her only purpose is to deliver children, to be a birthing vessel. The rest is, she'll figure it out.
Or she'll die in childbirth, and so then it's okay. Yeah.
Right? And these are assumptions I'm making, right? I could be wrong, but I do know, like you do, that female bodies have not been, I don't want to say explored, they haven't been
researched.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Again, if you want to talk about data-driven, think of all of the drugs that were given to women 30 years ago that had never been tested on women for women-only ailments.
Right.
First of all, what is that doing to the men they're testing it on? And second of all, you have a full range of people who are suffering from this. How about with consent, you work on them?
Right.
It just seems kind of obvious.
Yes. Yes, and yes.
So we're pretty close to done, Azin, but this has been such an important conversation for me because you did something I knew you would do, which I was excited about. You kept reining me in. And I
did?
appreciate that. Yeah, in good ways. You kept saying like, yeah, okay, well, that's a pretty hefty stereotype. I mean, you didn't say it that way, but I think as I explore this podcast and having space to, with very little impunity, say what I want to say, it takes a really remarkable person to, particularly as kindly as you did, just say, I just want to go back and say, that's not exactly right. So I really appreciate that, because I think some of this bridging, this middle ground, this breaking new ground, being an explorer, all of these things, which on one hand seem very disparate, and on the other hand are very similar or very paired well together. I think some of that for me is exploring how far do I want to push things, being open to being reined in, and being present with people I invite to the conversation who have expertise that I want to learn from. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I should have just done a quick Google search on what venture capital is, talked at my audience for 20 minutes as if I know anything, and hit stop record. So I really appreciate that you and Keisha came on and brought your considerable knowledge and now your lived experience and your thoughtfulness to this conversation. Thank you.
Dayna, thank you. May I add some more? I was listening to what you're saying, and really, again, my one thought is, it's a podcast. A good conversation should be a dance. And it is the ability for me to have the thoughtfulness and to explore and to pull us back, only because you're pulling that way. And then I just think, well, naturally, I'm going to pull us that way. Mm-hmm. So it's necessary for you to go to the edges. Mm-hmm. Or if you weren't, then I would need to go to the edges. Mm-hmm. Right? And so understanding co-creation, which again, I'm using terms that I know are resonant to you and to me.
Yes.
But that is what I see as this process, and it's the graciousness that we both are playing in it.
I love
and I
that.
use the word playing. You could say
Yes.
exploring. You could, but we are improving.
Yes. Well, I will be really honest. Oh, go ahead.
I want to say one more thing to both to you and to the audience members. I don't remember what I said that got you to like make that change at the Fargo Film Festival, which I remember very well attending and knowing ahead of time that something special was going to happen. I knew it. And when you started speaking, it was clear to me, like there was the tonality of your voice is what I remember best of all. and the warmth and the curiosity. And I thought, oh, there it is. So I remember that very, very well, and very thankful that we have continued on this journey together.
Oh my gosh, I feel exactly the same way. Sometimes you get an opportunity that on the face of it would have been fine. It was an interesting film. I love to support the festival. My friend had invited me. It made perfect sense for me to be there in 100 ways. And then there's this whole other kind of universal spiritual thing that happens, that somebody just happens to be there. I mean, I know that you are one of many people who participated in panels all across the country and the world now with this film. And the fact that you were there, I was there, there was space for me to ask the question. I mean, so many things had to line up for that to work. And I am just perpetually grateful that it did. And I feel that way about this conversation too.
That is a beautiful way to wrap, Dayna. Thank you. I'm just going to say +1, bold, underlined, in like huge font.
Well, the last thing, how can people find Emmeline Venture in case they want to know more or reach out to you?
Yes, the best way would be our website is emmelineventures.vc. That's how you can find us there. There is a contact page or a contact tab where if you're a founder and you would like to submit your company, you can look at what our investment thesis is and you could submit the materials. If you want to learn more about investing, there's an opportunity for that. We are not currently raising funds, so feel free to use that to ask your questions. Another great space to connect with me is via LinkedIn, and I'm really easy to find. My name is a combination of words that don't usually come together, so you'll find me easily, and that would be really great. Reach out to me, please, in the connect request. Just mention in a note that you listen to Dayna's podcast, and we'll go from there.
Oh, Azin, I've loved our time together. Thank you so much, and best of luck disrupting and normalizing the venture capital world with more Emmeline Ventures.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
All right,
Dayna.
Everyone else, we will talk very soon. Thanks for joining me on Brave Middle Ground. I hope today's conversation inspired you to embrace the power of the in-between and take steps toward deeper connection and understanding. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Your support grows our community and keeps these meaningful conversations going. For more information on Brave Middle Ground and everything else I'm working on, go to daynadelval.com. Brave Middle Ground is mixed by Matthew O'Mara, and our music is by Quinn Del Val. Until next time, I'm Dayna Del Val. Stay curious, stay courageous, and stay connected.